Welcome to That Could Have Been an Email. I'm Leslie Bailey.
And I'm Ron Shaw.
And we started this podcast to discuss the good, bad, and ugly of project managing, bring humor to our everyday project management and client situations, and a place to commiserate on all those things that our partners, friends who aren't in the industry never understand. Hi, everybody. Welcome to That Could Have Been an Email. I'm Leslie Bailey. Along with me always is the festive Ron Shaw with that Christmas tree up already. Welcome, Ron.
Hello. And yes,
Starting early.
Well, normally I would start right after Halloween, but I actually even gave it a week this year. So
okay.
We're getting closer. And this episode's going to air right before Thanksgiving, it'll be the week before Thanksgiving. So our next one won't happen until after Thanksgiving. So, hey, I'm almost on time. I didn't add it a little bit earlier.
Well, I mean, that's fair. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to buy a holiday wreath after this is over. So I think everybody's starting a little earlier. It makes you happier. That's what science says, right? So We're just going to go with it.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. I've never really understood the people that get upset over other people decorating earlier. Nobody's making you do it. It's very odd. My mom was so irritated that some of her neighbors have put up their Christmas lights already. And I just don't know how it affects her life in any way. So
when you're in the spirit, you're in the spirit.
I know.
Gotta roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, if your favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, like good for you. That's only a day. And then it's kind of, it's over. So welcome everybody. Like Ron said, this will air before Thanksgiving. So happy early Thanksgiving to everybody. Today, we are talking about a super interesting topic to me because I love to get other people's perspectives, as does Ron. And we have a guest again this week. We have Kass Stavropoulos. Kass, if I butchered it, let me know. But we welcomed her today because, as Ron and I can admit, Kass is younger than we are. And today we want a younger perspective on what we're talking about. So welcome, Kass.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here. And you nailed the name. You're good.
It would have been so embarrassing because I know Kass. And if I can't even pronounce her name, then we're in big trouble. So we wanted to talk about today, there's so many job opportunities out there right now, and a lot of them will boast about their benefits. We hear about unlimited PTO, team happy hours, team building, all these things that happen. But Ron and I, let's say, Ron, we haven't looked for our first jobs in an incredibly long time. We're not going to put numbers out there because I don't want to. But when we were out there, health insurance, things like that were the biggest ones we were looking for. So we wanted to talk to Kass about these companies that are offering things like unlimited PTO, and if that's really a benefit that these younger generations coming into the workforce are looking for, or if it's just another kind of thing on a bullet list coming in. So let's kind of talk about this first. So we probably will throw out random ones there because honestly, I'm going to be totally upfront. I haven't looked at a job listing in an incredibly long time. So I don't know of all the benefits they keep offering, but from a younger generation, Kass, let's kind of set the stage first. Can you tell me like some of the things that you look for in benefits when you're kind of looking at those long lists of all of these things that they offer you when they're talking about how great their organization is?
To be completely honest, coming out of college, I just looked for anything that paid. I really
money. Okay, great.
Money. If it was in my industry, that was ideal too. But I was just like, I need a job. Like I'm out of college. I need a job.
Yeah.
And when I first got out of college, I was actually working part-time at SiriusXM as well as at a restaurant. So through that, I was kind of doing job searching on the side, but everyone's like mindset when you're getting out of college is just, I need to find a job. It really doesn't matter what kind of job it is, as long as they pay and have, some type of insurance that if, you're kicked off your parents' insurance.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main focus when you're just searching for your first job.
Well, now with the insurance, it's 25 now though, right? Like that changed because Leslie, I think that was different from our generation to Kass's because when ours, I think it was 18 or
I think it's 22.
Okay. Yeah. It was young when it was younger. So like we had most of the time we didn't even make it out of college or we're just getting out of college. And it was like, good luck. You have no more insurance. Go.
Yeah.
So I think it was definitely a more focused for us at that point, at least. Now the next generation didn't have to look specifically for, oh my God, I need insurance now.
Yeah. And I mean, that's so true. Actually, that conversation with my mom yesterday, because we were talking about going to the dentist, and I admitted the first time I went back after high school, it had been years. And it was because I didn't have dental insurance.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yes, it's like a big thing that every generation looks for, because I mean, that's how you stay healthy. And yeah, there was those
Mhm.
gap years where I hoped nothing happened, because I didn't have any. So that's a good point, because it seems like generations are still looking for that. That's still something that you have to have besides money. Money
Yeah.
is, I think we can all agree, money is still the number one thing that people look at.
Mhm.
Especially now that, Cass, you've got a couple jobs under your belt too. We're looking for different salary ranges now. So that money,
Yep.
I think it's a continuous thing that people look for. The health insurance also, because I'll be honest, there's some really crappy health insurance out there. And if you can get some really great health insurance, then that is such a factor in deciding for jobs. So, okay, so we said money and health insurance. We'll keep that continuous through the generations, because I think that's something that sticks. But I only saw a few. And when it's, I don't know, I might have been in between jobs when I saw a few that really talk about team building and these team happy hours. So, Ron, I'm going to ask you first, as being on the elder side of this conversation. Can you remember, or right now, is that something that you care about as a
The team
benefit?
hat now. So, well, I'm introvert over here. So like the happy hour, that's bringing me out of my comfort zone and asking me to
Yeah.
like, be out around a lot of people. So one-on-one interactions are great, but the team happy hours are never anything I was overly excited about. It's like, if I could
Mhm.
connect with one or two people on the side, great. But that was never really a selling point to me. But it definitely was a lot more out there from what I recall, like with some of the
Mhm.
earlier jobs that I had. I was like, oh, we do this and we go here. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Well,
it
and I
just
think
it wasn't a full selling point to me.
it's, yeah. And you know what? It wasn't to me either, because I will be the first one to admit I went to a lot of them. But then you went into the weird situation where if you don't go, or if you're the only one who doesn't go, people start to talk about you or wonder why you don't go. And it's just, you just don't want to. It's not a thing that you do.
Right.
And I will slip my pop culture reference in here, since I did Mean Girls one last time. In the movie How to Be Single, there's a scene where they're at an office Christmas party, and this guy walks up and asks if there's an after party, because this just feels like a longer day at work. It kind of does if you go to those, because you generally, and it's natural, you talk about work. You don't go talk about anything else. I mean, we still catch ourselves doing it now, where we go out to dinner with old friends from old jobs and we talk about work. It's like a sickness.
It's that basis of conversation that never
Yeah.
goes away. Cass, does that
Oh.
happen like with what you're seeing now? Because you're kind of into your like second job of your career after college, but do you see that where like when you go out with people that you work with or your friends, where it becomes a conversation of work?
It's, I feel like it's a little different for our generation, because now most of my friends and the people I know that I graduated with work from home. So we don't see our coworkers on a daily basis. Yeah, maybe sometimes we talk to them a couple weeks over Zoom or through Slack chat channels, but we don't get to see these people every day. So by the time, we do have those meetings to go talk and converse with our coworkers, sometimes it is more work focused. But since a lot of us are doing our days online and then we'll go out to meet up with coworkers, kind of depends. I know my roommate, she says that when she usually goes to work happy hours or work dinners, they all will go into their office and then go out after. And she said for the most part, everyone is pretty conversational aside from work. You have a couple of those workaholics that just love to eat, sleep, and breathe their job. But besides those people, it's pretty conversational outside of the job, which is good.
And that makes sense, because Ron, if you think about it, back in our days together, we were always at work. Cass, we were
Right.
those workaholics. We all were. So that's all we did. And it was because we needed money. It wasn't because we
Right.
actually wanted to be there for 18
Yeah.
hours a day. But yeah, I guess that is different now, because it's just a different mindset. And the working from home thing, I think, has changed. But it's almost like you're saying it's in a good way, because you're not going there to commiserate and complain about it like we were. You're just
Right.
actually having a conversation about it.
Yeah. And actually what we do is at my current job now is we have meetings set up with our one-on-one managers as well as I'm an associate position. So all of the associates will have like a monthly meeting.
Mhm.
And there's kind of where we can air out any grievances, any hardships that we're feeling, anything that we have issues with, or even good things. It's a space for us to have those conversations so that when we do go out and meet, we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have those. I think Ron and I can.
Ours was normally, it would go from leaving the office around like 6 or 7,
Mhm.
walking down a street to a bar, and then proceeding to drink and complain about our
Yeah.
day until 2 a.m.
And then go back and do it again.
And then go again.
Maybe not the drinking thing 2 days in a row.
That actually brings up an interesting thing though, Leslie, thinking about this is with the change in the remote working, are a lot of the perks and stuff that we had were office based, like having beers and pizza in the office, like having office Olympic type events and things like that.
Yeah.
That culture with the remote, it's not there. So it's like that kind of takes that. They can't offer those types of things as perks anymore. Like, oh, if you do a great thing, we'll let you go home early. I'm already home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, because now it's what kind of perks are you really offering? Because I can say this as a contractor, I work whenever I want. So it's a little bit different for me. I give myself perks, I guess. I let myself off at noon if I have nothing to do. But that certainly has changed that dynamic of what you can actually offer. And I think now, like you made the point, Ron, that you're an introvert. I think it's lost on people now because of so many different personality types. And different life situations. Like, for instance, if I was in an office, I'm not going to go to happy hour a week when I have a kid at home. That's just not going to happen, because that's time that I could be with my family. So I think they might be striking the wrong chord with a lot of personality types, because that's not something that they really care about. And when we used to be offered drinks in the office, I'm not sure it was a great idea, because I would rush to finish my stuff just to get to that part. So I'm not sure that resulted in great work, because I was trying to get as much done as I could just to go do something else. So it's interesting. And no offense to the people who do talk about team building and all that stuff. I'm sure that is very important to people who like to be incredibly social and are just getting into their career, want to network. I just think it's probably not something anymore we should lean on, Ron, like you're saying, since it's different now. The environment's just changed.
Yeah, you can still do team building in different ways. Even remote, you can do team building. It's just not the same as the way we would have experienced it, X amount of years ago. So it's changing. It's still good to build teams, even for the introvert like myself. It is still good to have those interactions and be able to build those relationships and connections with people. It's different. We are moving into a different type of work environment, and it's being guided by the younger millennials and Gen Z, and we're shifting into their working world, just like the boomers shifted into ours, and Gen X we all kind of keep moving through. The younger generation does start to define what the work world and the perks and everything are going to be like, because they're the ones that we're catering to, because we want them in the workforce.
Yeah. So that brings up a good point as to the other one we mentioned earlier, because I've seen some companies do this. I don't know of anybody I know that actually takes it, but in limited PTO, I feel like that's kind of a unicorn that people talk about, because I don't know anyone who's ever been like, oh, unlimited PTO. Okay, I'm going to take a day off every week. Because for one, I would be super nervous to do that, even though you offered it as a benefit to me, because it's either showing you that I don't have enough work to do, or that people are going to start talking about how much time I take off. So I want to ask both of you, is that something that you really believe? I'm sure it's real. Obviously, if they offer it to you, they can't take it back. But Ron, I'll start with you. Is that something that you would really, I guess, take the benefit of, or would that just be something that you see on the list and you don't care about?
Honestly, I don't pay attention to it. It's nice to know that the freedom's there. However, I don't use it. The whole term unlimited time off, it doesn't make sense to me, because that means I could take every day of a year off because
Yeah.
it's unlimited time off. I mean, realistically. So I think the term is made to like make people feel something about like, oh my God, I've got all this time off. In reality, you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
I think it's nice. Like if you could say like you have a month off or you have like 2 months off, creating that like 8-week window of period, I think is more realistic than saying unlimited, because unlimited just says, well, you can take whatever you want off. And in reality, they can't come back and complain about it. You just, well, I have an unlimited time off.
Right.
I mean, if
Right.
I find a way to get the job done and I'm still taking unlimited time off, why not?
Yeah. Well, Cass, what about you? Is that something that perks your interest when you see it, or it's just something that you kind of gloss over because you know you're not going to be taken off every week once you start a position?
Well, actually, I have unlimited PTO.
I thought you were going to say you have taken off a day every week. And I'm like, oh, good for you.
Well, to be completely honest, I think October, no, not even. I haven't worked a full month since I started this job. Whether that's between like company days off that we have or time that I've taken off. It's very rare where I've worked a full week since I've started. And what's nice about it for me is that I don't have to worry about it. I think that's why I like unlimited PTO, is because if I do want to take a day off, or if I do need to go to an appointment during the work week, I don't have to stress about it. And one thing that's really great about my company, which I hope is like other companies out there that are offering unlimited PTO, even though it's not always the case, they are very encouraging for taking it off. They're always like, please take it off, take some time off. When was the last time you had a day off? You should be taking time off. If you're not feeling well, they'll be the first ones to be like, sign off. So they're very encouraging about it, but I also understand that's not the case at every company that offers it.
It's not. I mean, I haven't been at one, so I wouldn't know, but it's, I think that's great, because it's with so many people getting so burnt out, and just working all the time. Like, well, for example, Friday, I was with my husband at a volunteer program, and one of his colleagues was talking about how one of his team members is always answering email at 10 or 11 and was saying it is a good thing. And I'm not taking anything away from them. That is, but why? And I used to do it, and Ron used to do it too. So I can't say anything, but I wish that wasn't seen as such a badge of honor that someone's doing that. And that they should be really encouraging you to be done at, 5, 6, whatever it is, a normal time. Because I think, and Ron, I think you and I can say this together. I think that was kind of the problem with our generation when we started out. It was, you were seen as the best if you were answering emails all the time.
Oh yeah.
If you were there before and after everybody. And, in our heads, we thought that was going to get big promotions. It often didn't, unfortunately. So I think that was the one thing I would say our generation got wrong.
Yeah, with the hours, and it was kind of like, answer this at every hour, whatever hour. And we've had a conversation, I think, on one of our episodes before, where we would be waking up in the middle of the night, half asleep, grabbing the phone, going, oh, and trying to respond, hopefully not making any mistakes while responding at like 3 a.m. But it was that, like, you were applauded for being available all the time. To jump back real quick to the unlimited. Again, I was joking earlier with like the concept of it, because it's just, unlimited when you say that, it really is. But the freedom. So what Kass was saying, the freedom that it allows her to be able to do that and not worry. I think that's good. And I think that is that shift from the next generation after us. That is coming, where they do get their work done, but they also know how to take that time away and say, I need a day here to go do this. I'm still going to get everything I get done. And I think we're also slowly seeing the shift of companies saying, oh, okay, this still works. I'm still getting quality work from this person. But they're, lasting longer because they're not burning out. They're actually knowing, hey, I have some limits here that I need to take in order to produce the work and the quality that you're looking for.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point too, because, and Cass, I think it's great that you haven't worked a full month since you started there, because you're not just constantly working. And at the same time, I have things that I can get done in 2 hours. So why would I need to do an 8 hour workday? And I think
Right.
I'm not going to go too much into that because I think that's an episode we have coming up, but it's just, it makes sense because if you can get things done in, let's say 4 days a week, why not take that day and go do what you need to do or do something for yourself or for your family? I mean, it's a great mindset. I'm glad a lot of organizations seem to be shifting to doing that because
Mhm.
you're just keeping people happier. I mean, I think before COVID and during, a lot of people realized they weren't happy. That's exactly what it was. And I think
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
why a lot of these companies started being like, we need to really change what our benefits are
Mhm.
around this. And I think it's awesome because, like we've talked about, there's so much pressure to get all this done and we have so much connectivity now, but if you can get it done quicker, why not have those extra days to go to the post office or the bank? Saturdays are not great days for doing those things. Like
Right.
everybody can talk about that. It just doesn't work. Or the DMV. Nobody wants to go to the
Oh
DMV on
God.
a Saturday.
It is,
So
yeah.
yeah.
The world of work is definitely shifting. I had one of my colleagues this week send me an article that showed Chick-fil-A of all places is shifting to 13-hour days and doing less days per week to hit the 40 hours. So they're actually shifting to like these longer days, but only doing
Mm,
it's like 3 days a week or something like that, to where they're reducing. It's something that I think a lot of people have been asking for, is to be able to do longer days, less days during the week. So
Yeah.
we're seeing shifts happening where the
Yeah.
workforce is
yeah.
adjusting there. Cass, what are some of the other things, from a perk side, what would you look for? Like, if ideally you're going into a company and looking outside of the money. We know we like the money. What are some other things for maybe you or your friends that you guys look for when you're looking for jobs?
For me, going in, it's always what does the culture look like? Because culture has been very important to me in my past jobs that I've enjoyed, is that there's a good culture, whether that's, having the mandatory meetings, if that's, the mandatory team building things, if that's what's helping, okay. But when it's more like a natural environment where everyone is there to do their job, but they're also friendly and want to get to know you, and outside of work be personable with you.
Mhm.
So I really look for companies that offer any type of benefits that kind of feed into that. With my current company, it's a little tricky because, like I said, it's all remote. Everyone's online. We have employees, here in New York, but we also have employees in San Francisco, in Minnesota, and all over the place. So obviously, we can't all get together all the time. But prior to this year, just because of everything going on with the economy and everything, they would do a whole team company offsite.
Mhm.
So it'd be like our whole department. We're trying to get this back to, would just go somewhere. I think last time they went to Palm Springs. So nice little
Miss the boat.
vacation. You just go, and they all rented a house that they all stayed in, and they really just like got to sit, chat, and get to know each other for a couple days. So having things like that, I think, is really important. Right now, we've started what we call our culture club, which I'm a part of, and we just
Mhm.
have been thinking of like fun things to do with the team. So to kick it off, we're having a little Thanksgiving happy hour via Zoom next Wednesday, or actually this Wednesday, where we're just gonna sit, drink, chat,
Mhm.
for about an hour. And then we have a Secret Santa coming up. So just little things like that to really engage with coworkers is definitely, I think, important to me in the younger generation, because I think we are a bit more social, and we
Mhm.
crave a bit more social appetite. And I think that has to do with social media influence. So having that culture, I think, is really important.
So I have a question. Actually, we were
Yeah.
just talking about this last week at a dinner I was at. Do you think it's easier to be social because you're not in the office? So there's not really a lot of office politics, kind of gossip going on.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say it's easier. There are still, don't get me wrong, there's still
Yeah.
drama. I think there's drama in every workplace, but you hear about it differently. And the way you
Mhm.
hear about it is like, okay, I heard this. I'm not really going to share that with anyone because who am I just going to go DM and tell about this? But then after work, I can go and tell my roommates all the drama that happened. You know what I mean? So I think it's a little bit healthier in that sense, because it's not like you're hearing something and then like turning to your coworker and be like, oh my God, did you just hear that? So I think it does create a bit of a healthier environment there.
Yeah, I think it definitely does, because I was telling this story about a place I used to work where every morning I would see the same person and I would say good morning and they would just glare at me. And I was like, I don't understand what I did to you. And either I'm nicer than I think I am, or it was just a habit where I would just keep doing it and keep getting shut down. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
Okay. So I think I think you're onto something, that you do hear it in a different way. It's a different kind of setup. So it's not so kind of in your face every day if there's like drama or gossip or, some situation happening that everybody's talking about.
Right. And my team, we really try and foster like positive communication when we're all talking as a group. So if anything, it's like, it's something important that I'm hearing directly from my manager, or if it's another associate and we're talking and we realize we have the same problem, then we go to our manager to talk about it. It's not really about us just all sitting on a meeting and being like, oh my God, can you believe what so-and-so did today? There's really none of that, to be completely honest.
That's good that there's none of that. I remember a lot of instances of that in a lot of environments I was in. So it's good to hear that your generation is taking it in that direction, where it's just that you're kind of just meeting it head on. It stops before it gets to a big group of people talking about it. And I mean, that's great, because we've all been part of a team where everybody just kind of pents it up and then it comes out and it's way worse than it should have been. So I was just curious if that kind of changes that social dynamic, because you're not together every day, to where somebody's bad day is bleeding into somebody else's and it turns into some kind of situation. So I was very curious about that, because we were having a conversation about that last week. So that's super interesting. And I'm glad to hear it. And it sounds so, and I do not mean this in the way it's going to come out. Your generation sounds so mature with the way that they're looking at job benefits. And I mean, that is a compliment, in case anybody's going to take that however they want to. I mean, it's a compliment, because like you're saying, yes, money is the first thing we all look for, but I'll be honest, when I was looking, I didn't look at culture or, feel things like, are they going to have a one-on-one with me to talk about how I'm really doing, how I really feel about this? I probably should have in retrospect, but we didn't, because, and Ron, you can tell me if you think differently. When we were coming up in it, that wasn't a thing. And I'm not saying that managers, directors didn't care about people, but I mean, Ron, would you agree? That wasn't really,
when we were coming through, like the culture was work. It was come in and work. Like that was it. Or occasionally it was like, again, it was the beer and pizza generation of like, we'll do these in the office things when you're working. We'll bring the stuff in. One of the first few jobs I had out of college, they actually, part of the perk was they had a refrigerator in the office that was always stocked with beer. So at that point in life, like
not a great habit.
That was in my mid to late 20s. That's a benefit to me. That's like, I can walk over, grab a beer. But the culture has grown kind of over the last 15 years or so. It's really built to become more important part of a company. Even where I'm at now, it's the culture is very important. And that's, something that I saw. And even when I started my own job search again, that was an important part. There were places that I was interviewing where I could tell there was not a good culture. It was toxic, and even led to my decision, because I don't want to go back and be in one of those positions where I'm working somewhere that I'm not happy. And that culture really can help define or break your happiness level at a job. So I think that's great that we're taking those lessons from the millennials and Gen Z and bringing that in, and we're building. And it's benefits to everybody to have that happening.
And it's great that you guys are having that experience too, because that's going to make you guys even better directors, managers that are going to take over. So I think that's great.
Yeah. And I actually, in one of my grad school classes, we were talking about leadership and how Gen Z is actually the generation that's most nervous to lead. And I think that kind of ties into how mental health, anxiety, and depression. They say that they're more prominent in the younger generations, but I just think we talk about it more and it's recognized more. So I think that also feeds into fostering a more positive culture, because if you create an environment that people are comfortable being in or excited to being in, instead of feeling pressured and bogged down and overwhelmed, you're going to get way different results.
Yeah, no, and it is. I mean, it's true. We have this conversation with my parents all the time because my parents will always ask us why we're all so anxious. And it's not that, it's just that now we can actually admit it. And
Right.
there's, you know, it probably came from some of that, the pressure to have to work all the time and grades and everything that we kind of were brought up with. But now we're kind of stepping back from that a little bit. It's not so much about kind of, let's say, those forward facing things that we see
Right.
with work. But no, and I think that's great. And the fact that you guys' generation is so aware of it and so open to talking about it and actually doing something about it as well. So, I mean, years ago, if I would have went to my director and was like, I'm really nervous about this event, they would have been like, okay, well, get over it and do it. There would have been no conversation beyond that. So I agree with that. And I think that's great that there's actually classes being taught about that, and that you guys are kind of being set up and poised to make that one of the characteristics you look at in people and recognize if there is a problem.
Yeah,
great.
it's been very important. And also I think, kind of going back to the benefits of work, I know something that's been really important, especially for my generation, is having access to therapy. So with some insurances, they don't cover therapy. For example, my insurance. So right now it doesn't cover therapy, but what they've done is that I think Anthem has partnered with a self-help app. So starting January 1st, we're going to have access to therapists through that online app. So even if it wasn't available right away, like, they worked to get it, because that's something that is very, very important to my generation. It's just like having a doctor, having a dentist, you should have a therapist.
And would you want to see that as promoted as a benefit when you're looking for a job?
Absolutely. Yeah. Having access to that, I think, is super important. Even if you're someone that's like, I don't need therapy, I feel like we can all benefit from just talking.
Raise your hand if you said that and you have a therapist. Like, I think everybody said that.
Mental health awareness is very important. It's losing the stigmatism that it had before, which is great. And making that more aware, and the younger generation, again, has forced us to become aware and more cognizant of that. With some people, that old stigma of any type of mental health, sometimes it's to help those people get over the line. It's talking about it as coaching, because at least from a professional standpoint, it's okay to have that channel to vent off to, because you don't always want to vent everything that you're having in a business channel, like especially as you get up higher into the cycle or the level of the business. You can't go complaining. Like, you don't have those outlets unless you have other people at that same level at other companies that you can trust and talk to. So having someone that is a business coach or acts as a therapist, it allows that channel. So we're finding ways to get the older generation to accept that and work with it. And a lot of times it is labeled as a business coach. It's someone that sits there and listens to him and kind of helps. Well, do you think you should be doing that?
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too, because like you said, if you're a hierarchy at your organization and you're kind of executive level, who are you going to go complain to?
It's true.
You're the one in charge. So I think that's a great point. And actually, Cass, it's a great benefit to list off, because that's actually something I didn't even think of that I would be looking for in something. And to know that they actually care about their employees that much, that they want everybody kind of just being able to have an outlet other than other coworkers, because like I said, that doesn't always create the best environment when you're kind of constantly venting to each other. So that's great.
Yeah. And it was one of the things that made me really excited to join this company that I'm at now, is they have mental health days. So company wide. So on months where there's no holidays, we get a mental health day once a month, and the whole company's off. They're usually on Fridays, and it's just great. Everyone's off. All of our clients are aware. So it's just a nice day to reset and relax if you need it, or if you need to, take care of things outside of work. And you're not able to take your PTO for that month. You at least have that day given company wide where you can just do anything outside of work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, we are getting close to the end of our time. Kass, I got to ask this because we had a show 2 episodes ago where we were talking about emojis. So I got to ask because you're a younger generation.
Groundbreaking stuff over here.
I got to ask because it's on my mind, and the chance we get another millennial Gen Z on before it becomes irrelevant again. Kass, is it standard practice for your generation to use emojis in business emails?
So my rule of thumb is I don't do it unless someone else does it. I know that sounds
yes,
I know that sounds silly, but like I refrain from using them in emails unless someone responds back to me with the smiley face. Then I'm like, okay, then I'm okay to throw it in there if I want to, if I find it could be helpful, but I never am the first one to do that. In Slack channels with coworkers, whatever, but emails, no, not unless someone does it first.
That is exactly what I said.
And okay, I'm going to follow up. What is the most cringe emoji out there that you think out there?
The most cringe, like in a work setting?
Any setting.
Any that's a good question. I don't know, because I think different emojis work well in different scenarios. Like I have like my top that I use, and some of them are kind of weird, but they work in certain situations. Like in my friend group, the salute, we call it the yes chef emoji, but the salute emoji is very popular in our friend group because it just works in certain scenarios. In terms of like a work environment, though, I would probably say anything like the peach or the eggplant. Those are not things you should be using.
Yeah, that's probably not work related. Unless you're in the cooking industry, maybe
Don't use
there's
those.
a use for that.
Yes.
Now, Kass, what about this one?
The thumbs up. It's I use it in Slack mostly. So like if my manager is like, "Oh, thank you for doing this," I'll just like it with the thumbs up. But I'm not just gonna send you a thumbs up.
Okay. I had to find out. We had the conversation. It's good to get, hear where everybody else in the world is at on that. All right. So we are wrapping up from time today. Leslie, do you have anything else you would like to add before we wrap?
I don't. I think this is a great conversation. I hope everybody takes away from it what would benefit them, because it sounds like we're going to have more benefits coming into 2023 that actually kind of flesh out the ones that didn't work and open up those environments to people. So I hope, Kass, thank you so much for kind of giving us your perspective on this. Because like I said, Ron and I are kind of fossils compared to you when it comes to entering into the workforce. But your perspective is, I mean, it was amazing to hear that. And I'm glad that you are doing so well with your current position.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun being here today. This is a great conversation.
Thank you. And just before we wrap up today, just an update on our fundraising that we're doing here. We're up to $294 that's going to the Children's Fund. So again, folks, remember, the more you watch, download, the more I'm able to donate. Again, we're going to do that in the first week or so of the new year. So again, all you have to do, listen, download, and that adds more to the total. Kass, thank you so much for coming on, being part of the show today. Leslie, as always, thank you. And everyone, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We will see you again on Friday after.
Thanks, everybody.